Dragons, the ancient fire breathers of legend, keepers of treasure, destroyers of cities, gods of storm and sky. From China to Norway, Egypt to the Amazon, stories of dragons have slithered through human history for thousands of years. But here's the real question. Why do so many cultures invent creatures that are so similar, yet so different? Could they be based on real animals, ancient fossils, or something deeper inside the human mind? Today we're diving deep into the myth, history, science, and psychology of dragons. And by the end, you'll never look at these legendary beasts the same way again. Welcome to The Hidden Scrolls, where we focus on history, folklore, and mythology. Let's begin at the beginning. Dragons have existed in stories for over 5,000 years, maybe longer. Some of the earliest known dragon myths come from Mesopotamia, where the goddess Tiamat, a chaotic sea serpent, waged war against the gods. In this tale, dragons weren't just monsters, they were primordial forces of nature, representing chaos and the unknown. Fast forward to ancient China, and dragons take on a completely different role. Here, the long was a symbol of luck, rain, and imperial authority. It wasn't evil, it was revered. Chinese dragons had long, snake-like bodies, deer antlers, fish scales, and the ability to control the weather. Rather than burning cities, these dragons brought life, rain for crops, power for emperors, harmony with nature. But look to medieval Europe, and the dragon is something else entirely. It's winged, horned, cruel, and greedy. Think of the dragon in the legend of Saint George, hoarding gold, demanding sacrifices, breathing fire, or Fafnir from Norse myth, who became a dragon by being consumed by greed. So why such a split in the myth? The answer lies in how different cultures viewed nature. In the East, dragons were tied to the elements and balance. In the West, they symbolized chaos, danger, and things to be conquered. Let's take a tour across the globe and meet the dragons of myth. Japan. Dragons here resemble their Chinese cousins, serpent-like, wise, and powerful. But they also tend to be guardians of sacred places, like lakes or temples. The dragon god Ryujin controlled the tides and lived under the sea in a crystal palace. India. The Naga are snake beings, sometimes with multiple heads. They live in the underworld, but are also protectors of water sources. Some are evil, some are divine. They appear in Hindu, Buddhist, and Jain traditions alike, Aztec and Maya civilizations. They worship Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent, god of wind, learning, and creation, a dragon without fire, but with intellect. British Isles in Northern Europe. Dragons are enemies to be slain. They represent wild, untamed lands. In Beowulf, a dragon guards ancient treasure for centuries until it is awoken by a thief. The result? Death and destruction. Africa and indigenous America. Though dragon may not be the exact term, serpent deities like Ido Huedo in Dahomey mythology carried the world on its back. Similarly, native tribes in North America told stories of massive, snake-like beings guarding rivers and mountains. Here's the strange part. Despite oceans, mountains, and centuries separating these cultures, the idea of a giant, reptilian, powerful creature repeats again and again. Coincidence? Or something deeper? Let's play scientist for a second. Could dragons have been real? Could they have existed in some form? Theory 1. Fossils and misunderstandings. Imagine you're an ancient farmer and you dig up giant skull, curved teeth, long snout, massive eye sockets. You don't know what a dinosaur is. You don't have paleontology textbooks. So you invent a story, a giant beast that once ruled the land, a dragon. This likely happened in ancient China, where the discovery of dinosaur fossils directly influenced dragon legends. Theory 2. Real animals that inspired the myth: Komodo dragons, 10-foot venomous lizards from Indonesia, crocodiles, ancient, armored, and deadly, snakes, feared worldwide, eagles and large bats, winged predators that might have inspired flying dragons. Theory 3. The dragons in our brain. Theory: some researchers believe dragons are a psychological composite of our primal fears: fire, reptiles, predators. Our ancestors feared those things for survival. Dragons just combine them all into one terrifying, unforgettable creature. So maybe dragons aren't real creatures, but they are real symbols. They exist in our DNA, in our fears, in our dreams. Dragons don't just live in myth, they're deeply rooted in religion and philosophy too. In Christianity, the dragon becomes a symbol of evil. In the book of Revelation, Satan appears as a giant red dragon, waging war in heaven. Saint George slays a dragon, symbolizing the triumph of good over evil. In Taoism, the dragon represents the yang, active energy, strength, and movement. It's balanced by the yin, often symbolized by the phoenix. Together, they reflect the duality of the universe. In alchemy, dragons symbolize transformation, death, and rebirth. The Ouroboros, a dragon eating its own tail, represented the eternal cycle of creation and destruction. The dragon isn't just a monster, it's a mirror for human values: power, wisdom, chaos, change. Dragons aren't going extinct anytime soon. In fact, they're bigger than ever in modern pop culture. Game of Thrones. Daenerys' dragons start as tiny babies, but become unstoppable weapons of war. But even then, they're unpredictable. Reminders that power can never truly be tamed. How to Train Your Dragon completely flips the script. Dragons aren't enemies, they're misunderstood. With Toothless, we see dragons as loyal, emotional, and even vulnerable. Harry Potter. Dragons guard the vaults of Gringotts and star in wizarding tournaments. Dangerous, majestic, and magical. Skyrim, World of Warcraft, Elden Ring. Let you fight dragons, ride them, or even become one. Why? Because dragons represent freedom, power, and the ultimate challenge. Dragons in pop culture are a way for us to explore our highest ambitions and our deepest fears. They're the boss fight, the ally, the test of strength, and we keep coming back for more. Here's the truth. Dragons are more than just fantasy. They are metaphors for everything that lies just beyond the horizon. For some cultures, they guard sacred wisdom. For others, they are obstacles to be slain. They represent the wild, the divine, the dangerous, and the transformative. Every time we write a new story with a dragon, we're not just creating monsters. We're asking the same ancient questions. What lies beyond our world? What does true power look like? Can we conquer our fears? We need dragons, not just to battle, but to understand ourselves.